don't wait until you feel lousy to figure out how to feel better. Right now, your body's really ready and primed to work with you. So if you can give it the right inputs now, you're going to reap the rewards so much more quickly. Your body has a requirement for protein.
Yes.
We need a certain amount of amino acids. This is just, there's research showing we as humans will overeat food in an attempt to get a required amount of protein.
Last week, I sat down with Amy White, a brilliant nutritionist who didn't start her career until her 40s. But what led her there was not a passion for food, it was frustration.
I remember being at the Super Bowl and being angry because I was like, what do you mean we're going to this thing now, which is going to be super fun? Where am I going to eat? I
Wow.
need to get some eggs. Where am I going to eat? I need to eat it right now. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like hijacking this amazing agenda because I think that I need to go find specific kinds of foods for me right now.
That moment hit me because a lot of us live like that and we don't even realize it.
You know, you see people who look uncomfortable and they just don't look joyful. They just look like they're dragging the world behind them or on top of them or whatever it is. They just don't look like they're loving life. And I
Yeah.
think, what can we do? How can we get you to a place where you feel really good and you like how you feel and you like how you look and everything just feels easier? So anyway, we ended up having to figure it out ourselves. And so that's what put me back into school. So I ended up going back to school to get my master's degree in nutrition. But we were at Thanksgiving at my mother-in-law's house, and my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, everybody was there. And my sister-in-law said, why don't you have a blog? Because I was talking about everything that I was learning in my school. And I said, well, I don't know. And so on the way home, we were driving from Louisville, Kentucky to Chicago. And on the way home, I was talking to my husband going, well, what would I call my blog? So anyway, that's where the name came from, the Simplicity of Wellness. And so it's sort of
That's awesome.
stuck.
So many good things happen on car rides. And I feel
Yeah.
that's the best time to talk to a kid, especially a teenager, because they can't go anywhere. You guys are facing in the same direction, so it's not like you're confronting them, right? And
Yes.
kids will just talk and talk and talk, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So anyway, that's how it happened. And yeah, it just stuck. And as I look back, I think, should I change the name? Should I do this? And I'm like, no, it's exactly what I've evolved into.
Yeah.
So I went
So
back to
cool.
nutrition school in my early 40s. And so now I'm closing in on 60. And I feel like that's my mission is for women. I look around and you see people who look uncomfortable and they
Mhm.
just don't look joyful. They just look like they're dragging the world behind them or on top of them or whatever it is. They just don't look like they're loving life. And I
Yeah.
think, what can we do? How can we get you to a place where you feel really good and you like how you feel and you like how you look and everything just feels easier?
Yeah.
That's kind of my goal.
Oh, that's so true. I think, and I do think it starts with physical health because if your body hurts or you got like a little headache behind your eyeball or something, it's like
Mhm.
that's such a big part of your world that everything out there, it's like it
Mhm.
becomes that much harder, right?
Yeah, well, you have so much brain power is focused on this thing that's
Right.
bothering you, whatever that thing is. And I just say with my clients, the biggest thing I hear about is just, well, I'm just tired. I'm so tired. I mean, I
Mm.
just in the afternoon, it's just I'm so tired. That's what I hear. And if you think about it, of course you feel like you're just dragging yourself and everything around you through the day. There's no, get up and go. There's no, this lack of energy
Yeah, yeah.
drags you down.
So you mentioned that you went back to school in your early 40s for nutrition. Was there a moment that hit you? Were you tired? Did you have a health
Mhm.
scare or how did you get back into
So
it?
I went back to school to help my daughter. But my body shifted and I hit that place where, oh my God, is this what everybody's talking about when they say it just, once you get older, it's horrible and you don't feel well and it just gets worse and it goes downhill. So I was 37 when that hit
Mm,
me. I
yeah.
remember. And I was puffy and I was overweight and I was uncomfortable and I was so cranky. And food was running my life. Like I was on a very strict schedule. I have to eat every hour and a half, and I have to make sure because otherwise, my metabolism and my energy my husband and I actually had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl that year.
Nice.
And I remember being at the Super Bowl or the events prior to the Super Bowl. So it was kind of a big deal. And there's a lot of events and all these fun things happening. And being angry because I was like, well, what do you mean we're going to this thing now, which is going to be super fun? Where am I going to eat? I
Wow.
need to get some eggs. Where am I going to eat? I need to eat it right now. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like hijacking this amazing agenda because I think that I need to go find specific kinds of foods for me right now. And
Yeah.
basically, if I don't, my entire life is going to collapse.
Yeah.
I felt that controlled. And I just remember thinking, what is happening? And so that was a moment where I thought, what's going on?
Yeah. Wow. That's a great realization though to come to that. I know it's funny when occasionally this will happen. I'll be eating something on the weekend, which I generally don't really hold myself to very high standards on the weekend as far as what I put in my body. If it looks good, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
And somebody saw me eating, I don't even remember, it was probably a pancake or something. You eat pancakes? Yeah, because who wants to deprive themselves from everything forever? And but that's so interesting how much food was running your life. And you even
Oh,
said
yeah.
you were puffy, you were inflamed, you weren't even healthy, you had
Right.
no energy. And
Right.
that's the thing that people sometimes will go, oh, I don't want to have to get super healthy because then I'll think about my health all the time or my food all the time. I go, no, 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 no. It's the opposite.
Yes.
Because an
Yes.
unhealthy person has one goal. What do they say? A healthy person has 1,000 goals. An unhealthy person has one goal. That's
Oh, I
all you
love
think
that.
about is how do I feel better? How do I get better?
Actually, I've never heard that. I love that.
It's great,
I
right?
it's so perfect. But I was that person. I was puffy, I was uncomfortable. I get out of bed and walk like a duck because my feet hurt,
Oof,
all the things. But I was eating every hour and a half because I was stoking my metabolism because
right.
this is what I was supposed to do. But in retrospect, you look back and go, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And yet I was crankier and I was moodier and I was meaner to my whole family the whole time. And it wasn't actually working, but I couldn't, you have that tunnel vision. No, no, that's what I'm supposed to do. And it's just like, so yes, back to your question. So when I went to nutrition school, I went to school to help my daughter. I didn't actually think I had any problems. I
Mm,
was like clearly overweight, I was uncomfortable and all that, but food wasn't my problem,
right.
right? I was, that was not a thing for me. I was fine. I could eat. I didn't get a belly ache like she does. I was fine. Food, not my issue. So yes, while I was in nutrition school, I started making the connection between, oh, so food is information, and whatever I'm eating is telling my body to do very specific things. So A plus B equals C. So if I'm puffy, uncomfortable, overweight, achy, somehow what I'm eating is telling my body that this is what we're supposed to have.
Right.
And then I started thinking, wait a second. So I started learning more about food and how it, impacts your body. And yeah, so slowly but surely, without even intending to, I peeled back my own, puzzle or pulled apart the puzzle and put it back together in the right way. And so one of the things that I teach clients now is sort of what you talked about is um, this idea of going from food restriction to food freedom. And the way I like people to think about it is I want them to think about food as they're most of the time food, they're some of the time food, and then they're rarely foods.
Ooh,
All foods. They're all available, but you're going to understand how it's going to work for your body because your most of the time foods are going to be the ones that you don't even think about it. If I eat these foods, they will make me better. And
yeah.
then the some of the time foods are the ones that are fairly neutral, but dose and frequency are a factor. So, and again, everyone's going to be different. So, how often you can have an ice cream cone versus how often I can have an ice cream cone might be different.
Right.
Where we feel imbalance and we feel good. And then those rarely foods are going to be the ones that you just know make you sick, but you love them. Like there's something your mom makes in the holidays, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't wait to have. I'm going to feel so sick, but
Right.
you love it. And so, yeah, so we have those rarely we choose to feel sick, even though we know, we're going to eat
Yeah.
it, even though we know it's not going to feel great.
Wow. There's so many gold mines in there. The one thing I think is incredible is something that I've fallen into as well, sort of like the denial or, oh, it's not me. I have no problems, right? I looked at a picture from me just even a couple months ago, and I had allowed myself to gain a little body fat. And I store it here like a chipmunk. Like I get a chin, a double chin. So you look at my before and after picture, you can even see my chin change. It looks like I got like a little tuck or
Yep.
something. So somebody who's listening to this, who maybe still believes that, oh, she's talking about somebody else, or oh, my husband, or my daughter, or my somebody. What what is your list of shoulds
Mm.
that every healthy body should have? Like healthy body should have energy at 3 p.m., et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. What's your list of shoulds?
Oh, so I call this your body control panel. And I actually created recently a document for my clients that's this body control panel so they can check in.
Nice.
And I think it's on my desktop because I was going to open it. Yeah,
Oh, that's
just so
cool.
I can read it to you. So these are the things that I always ask my clients to check in on. So we're going to look at sleep. So you always want you to evaluate your sleep from the night before. Was it restful? Was it restless? And then I give some examples of what that means. Mood. So are you feeling steady and calm, or are you reactive? And then energy. So is your energy consistent, or is it crashing like that 3 in the afternoon, like I need a nap or I need a coffee? Appetite. So again, is it feeling calm, or is it compulsive and you're just constantly like thinking about food, looking for food, wanting to eat? And then cravings, are they quiet, or are you being sort of driven? Are they demanding that you go find the M&Ms or the potato
Right.
chips or whatever? And then the optional piece is always checking in on your body weight as a metric. So not daily, but maybe weekly, just to see where's the trend.
Yeah.
But you're trying to move all of these control panels into the green zone, right? Which is the rested, steady, consistent, calm versus the red zone, which is the opposite. And I
Right.
described that. But I just had that conversation with a client this morning. When I ask somebody, well, tell me how you're feeling, what's going on? And they say, I don't know. I'm like, well,
Mm,
let's pull out the control panel. Let's look at this and then start thinking and evaluating where are you falling on this spectrum. And I find that as people move toward the green or the healthy side of that spectrum, then you can almost see their metabolic hormones coming into balance. I mean, that's what's happening. So, yes, so that's what I'm looking for with clients. Like what feels good is
yeah.
that sense of calm and control.
The body control panel. Is there a way for listeners to download that?
Yeah, I can absolutely give you a link for that.
Okay. Okay. So if
Let me write that
look
down.
look in the yeah look in the description if you guys are interested in the body control panel. That will be available. That is awesome. It's funny. I have a really good friend of mine who is a medical doctor. He's an ear, nose, and throat doctor. And even if he wasn't a doctor, he's the most health nutty person I've ever met. And he and I lived together for about a year after college. And I remember two really clear examples of when he kind of snapped me back into the health habits because I had kind of let myself go a little bit last year of college. I was not in a good emotional space because I really enjoyed college and I didn't want to go to the
Mhm.
real world. And I was eating pizza, drinking beer almost every night by myself. It was not a good place. Uh, and the changes happen so slowly that I look in the mirror and I'm like, normal. Not,
Right.
but I had gained like 25 pounds in, I don't, probably a matter of only a few months. And my friend and I were doing a workout. We were doing just like simple bear crawls, hands and feet crawling. And I was getting very winded. And I remember so clearly, he's in front of me and he just turns around and goes, "Really?" And I'm like, just
Yeah.
dying. So having having people to call you out and being like, I don't know if you're as fit as you think you are. Maybe let yourself go a little bit. So sometimes that can be very helpful. So the body control panel, everybody listening, definitely
Yes.
encourage you guys to download that from Amy. Um, so fast forward a little bit, Amy, you are now knowledgeable in nutrition. It's what, 15-ish years later?
About 13-ish, I think. Mhm.
13 years later, and
Since I got my degree, yeah.
since you got your degree. Okay. Uh, okay, so what is your ideal or typical client look like when they come in? What kinds of words are they using? What does their body look like? What is the process? And then where's the other side?
They they're um typically over 40, often late 40s, 50s. That's pretty typical. They are successful, super smart, well educated, eat healthy, but they are stuck. They're feeling stuck. There's like, and sometimes they only, I want to lose like 8 pounds or 20 pounds, or it's rare that they want to. I do have clients who've lost over 60 pounds, but for the most part, it's those kind of women in that middle space, that 20
Yeah.
pounds, and maybe sometimes they lose 30 pounds, but often they'll come in and think, well, maybe 15 pounds, but look over, out after all is said and done, they end up losing even more, like
Yeah.
30 pounds.
Yeah.
Because in your head, you only believe a certain level is possible. But then
Right.
once it starts going, you realize, oh, well, now my body's just going to help me get into balance.
Yeah.
So they are typically frustrated. They think they're doing everything right, but there's tweaks that can happen, and usually pretty addicted to sugars. A lot
Hmm.
of times I hear people say, "Well, I don't eat candy and I don't even like cake." But they love chips and they love cereal and granola and
Yeah.
cookies and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, and lots of starches like rice and sushi and all the, you know, that kind of stuff. So when I say food freedom, we want this. But in order to get this, I'm going to ask you to narrow your focus to start because
Yes.
we have to come into balance first. And once you create that balance where you actually feel your body and you're not doing something because somebody told you to do it, you're doing it because you're like, oh, I feel that. That's when we start to expand back out and
Yeah.
go, okay, now let's start adding things in because now you'll be able to tell, well, this should be a sometimes food versus a mostly food, or this should be a rarely food. You can start to see what your body is reacting to and what's working. Um, what else about my client? Um, the other newest thing is people are calling me because they don't want to go on a weight loss drug. Their doctors talking to them about GLP-1s.
Yep.
And again, they don't
Ozempic.
have a ton of weight to lose and they're not diabetic, but yet their doctor's like, oh, you should do this. Oh, we should just start you on this. And then they
Mm.
also somewhat feel offended because they're like, Really? I qualify for that? So they call and they're like, how can I don't want to go on a drug. So that's been really within the last 2 months, that seems to be a lot of the calls that I'm getting. Or people are like, I don't want to go on a weight loss drug. Can I do that without the weight loss drug? And I'm like, that's what I do. We
That's
we lose
awesome.
weight in a healthy way that feels good so that you're creating this calorie deficit, but it doesn't feel like you're in a deficit because you don't feel hungry, you don't feel
Yeah.
deprived.
Yeah.
So we're basically trying to upregulate your GLP-1 naturally. So you're feeling
That's
full and
awesome.
satisfied.
That's awesome. I've made it a point to not get into fights on social media, but one of the things that people argue with me on, and it's just brick wall that just falls down in front of me. But when I will comment on somebody's post when they say something like, "Oh, I've lost 10 pounds, but I'm starting to get hungry," da 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 da, and I'll say something like, you know, simple stuff, prioritize protein, make sure you eat enough fruits and vegetables and to make you feel fuller, fiber and
Volume.
water and all that. And then almost every time I'll get another comment that says, "That's so stupid. You can't just prioritize protein. You need carbs and fat." And I'm just thinking, I never said don't eat carbs and fat. I just said like this would be your first. So I don't respond to that anymore. But and then he said, you need to embrace the hunger. And I'm just like, no, you don't. You don't.
No,
You don't. Everyone watching, you do not need to be hungry to lose
right?
weight.
That's so old school. It's
Yeah,
just you don't have to torture yourself and feel miserable. And quite frankly, if that's the way you do it, it's not going to last.
right. Because who wants to be hungry for the rest of your life?
And you can't. Your body's going to win.
Yeah.
I was just doing there's something that I talk to my clients about and I call it protein appetite dilution. So your body has a requirement for protein.
Yes.
We need a certain amount of amino acids. This is just there's research showing we as humans will overeat food in an attempt to get a required amount of protein. So what I sometimes will see happening with some of my seasoned clients, even they'll get comfortable and they'll know they're most of the time, some of the time foods. And I had a client recently and she said, I'm having a really hard time hitting a protein, getting enough protein. And I'm like,
Mm.
this was never a problem for you. And she's like, well, I don't know. And so she said, I had this, I had an egg and a couple of little potatoes for breakfast and I was just really full. And then I didn't eat again for like 4 hours. And I was like, you had 6 grams of protein. So what she did was the potatoes, which I love, are so filling,
Yes.
but she diluted her appetite for protein with the carbohydrate of the potato. So she ate the potato, got full, and now wasn't hungry or interested in food, and so lost that opportunity to eat the protein. So that's what I call protein appetite dilution. So be very careful about what you're eating and in what order, right? So I said, if you want to have a potato with breakfast, fantastic. Let's have 3 eggs with 3 egg whites scrambled. Then let's have some sliced tomatoes, some sauteed spinach. And then if you still want the potato, let's have one of little potato,
Right.
but eat it last.
Yes.
And that's all it took. And all of a sudden now she's sitting, she's like, oh, I'm getting all my protein again. I feel so good. No, the weight's coming back off. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So
That's how it works. So yeah, the second meal that you just described is like 40 grams of protein right there. And
Well, with the eggs and the egg whites, you get less protein than you think with those silly eggs.
in the egg
Like
whites?
about 30, maybe a little more than 30,
Okay,
30 grams of
30.
protein.
Yeah, what I
Yeah.
recommend to my clients is that I'm sure it's similar for you, take your ideal body weight when all the fat is gone, based on your
Hmm.
height and your muscle mass and everything. Your ideal body weight multiplied by zero point 0.7. That's your minimum grams per day. Divide that by 3, and that's your per meal requirement. Just hit that every meal, you'll
Minimum.
be happy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's a great concept though, because that is very important, is that potatoes are, I believe, the most filling carb. Is that right? Have you
They're
heard that?
so filling.
They're
I
so
love them.
filling.
They're so,
You're right. You're not going to have any kind of desire to eat any more protein. If you had a big fat or 2 potatoes in your belly, you
yeah.
feel
Well, she would
good.
just have those little, even those mini potatoes, right? And they're
Yeah.
just so filling and so good. And yeah, they're a great food, but also often we take potatoes as hiking snacks. So
Uh-huh.
we'll cook them, salt them, and take them in
Perfect.
a bag as hiking snacks because they're perfect. You fill up, you feel full, you just,
Yep.
keep moving.
Get some glycogen in there and some,
Yeah.
quick carbs and get them burning. And then when you get home, have your protein. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. I love that concept of putting protein first. What did you call it again? The
I call
protein?
it the way I describe it to my clients is protein appetite dilution.
Love it.
So I'm sure you're familiar with Ted Naiman. He talks about protein dilution, which is just the processed food industry
Yes.
diluting what we consider protein. So if you're getting, and not even processed food, but for example, if you're eating fried chicken,
Yeah.
you think you're going to get all this protein from that chicken, but in fact, it's diluted because of the breading and the oil so you're getting less protein than you think.
Yes.
Anyway, it's a little bit more why I'm really more interested in what your appetite's doing and how are we missing out on the ability to eat enough protein? Well, if we're diluting with carbs and fats, to the point where we're just not hungry,
Yeah.
then of course we're going to have a hard time getting the protein that we want that
Yeah.
keeps us
Yeah.
satisfied and full and
And that's very practical too. Like you said, you have this sort of quota of, I think you mentioned 3 eggs plus 3 egg whites, and you're going to eat that, and then everything else that's on your plate, whether it's potatoes or uh, you know, fat, healthy fats, it's still healthy, but it is not protein. And we know we're going to eat this protein, and then we're going to have maybe
Yeah.
maybe half of the fat and carbs, maybe all of it, depending on how I feel. But I know for sure I hit that protein requirement, right? That checkbox.
I'm gonna always tell my clients I'm gonna like eat your protein first. And then if you're still hungry, have some more protein. And then if you want more, you can go dive into the fun food, which is everything else. I'm
That's
like,
great.
everything
I
else is
love
the
it.
fun food.
And
Yeah.
it's so funny. I think a lot of people, there's a mindset around this. Like the same person that would have no problem eating a tub of movie theater popcorn and not even think twice about it will sometimes push back on me when I tell them to eat 50 grams of protein in a meal. And they go, "What? That's so much." I go,
So not.
"Really? That's 200 calories. Come on.
Yeah.
It's not that much protein."
Yeah.
So, um,
I get these giant men and I'm like, yeah, if you could get 150 grams of I mean, I'd like them to eat more, but I'm like, if you could get 150 grams of protein, that'd be so, and I'm like, I look at them and I'm like, listen, I ate 170 grams of protein yesterday and it was not a problem. So
right.
I really
You
think
can
you
do
can do
it.
it.
I've been I don't know if you go to Trader Joe's, but they have a great product, and I think it's called Just Chicken. I love it because it really is. It's just chicken breast.
Yeah.
It's cooked already. It actually tastes really good. And so I had some today for sort of like a brunch, and it's so dry because it's literally
Wow.
just protein. It's got
It's
no
chicken.
fat on it. So I'll just grab like a little box of blackberries or something with it, or like
Mhm.
celery juice, and I'll eat the whole thing of chicken. It's like 112 grams of protein.
Yeah.
It's the most satisfying thing that I have ever eaten. It just feels so good, and I got the berries with it, a little bit of liquid. And I've gotten a couple of my clients on it, even a few women, and they're like, "You're right. It's so amazing. It's
Right?
just like I'm actually full and I have all this energy."
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'll
incredible.
tell you, this is sort of funny. I get very upset with packaged foods. I do have like my store-bought favorites that I share with my clients because it's always good to have that stuff in the freezer or in the fridge when you just are like, oh, I can't.
Yeah,
Um, but I look at the back and it tells you the serving size, and then I just am like, so this is really just for one person, right? Because it says three servings, but and I just recently bought some stuff from Trader Joe's and I haven't in a long time. But one of my clients was talking about some stuff, and I think one of the things I bought were the skewered chicken thighs. And I just had them yesterday and they're very yummy.
so good.
But again, on the back of the box, it said per serving and then it said per container.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I'm going to eat the whole thing.
yeah.
It's like, this is a per serving. What is that for a 3-year-old? I don't know.
Right.
But it was only, even still, for the whole container, it was 430 calories. I was like, boom, with the salad. I'm like,
Perfect.
there's a meal. Um, but it's just so funny because I definitely get on that with my clients. I'm like, I don't know who they're making these serving sizes for, but it's not like a grown
Yeah.
adult.
It's really, yeah, because the percent daily value on the back of the label, it's for only 50 grams a day. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll keep you alive.
Have you seen that? Where they do that breakdown of like if it's all usable
Right.
protein?
Yeah, you like divide by two or something. Yeah. It's
Hmm.
like how
Yeah.
to actually read the food label. Like if it's, I don't know what the definition of usable is, if it's a complete protein or if there's some other definition that they
It
use.
was if it has the right amount of amino acids for muscle protein synthesis, so to stimulate muscle maintenance or growth, and digestibility. Those were the two factors.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, very interesting. So, in summary, definitely eat your protein first and then move on to your carbs and fats. Amy, what do you want to tell people as far as your exclamation point? I was doing this with my podcast. I'm going to bring it back. You're at a college graduation. You're the keynote speaker at a college graduation. Um, your advice to the graduates on how to lead their best lives or what to think about with that? What would be your pep talk for them?
So I love when I get, again, not my average client, but when I get kids in their 20s, oh, it's so good because I'm just like, oh my gosh, you are in such a great position to just really set yourself up for this amazing, healthy life that you have control over. So I would say don't I'm not sure how I'd say it, but something to the effect of don't wait until you feel lousy to figure out how to feel better. Right now, your body's really ready and primed to work with you. So if you can give it the right inputs now, you're going to reap the rewards so much more quickly than if you turn 40 and are like, what am I gotta figure this out. It's like you don't. Right now, your body's ready to work with you. So if you can give it the right inputs and you can increase or maintain your level of health, then you're not going to have to worry about it down the road because learn it now and it's that gift that you'll take with you forever. Most of us get to try to learn it when we're already behind the ball, we're already pushing that rock up the hill. But if you can do it now, it will stay with you.
Yeah, I love that. So for somebody who wants to learn more about you, about your method, working with you,
Mhm.
um, how do they reach out to you?
So my website is thesimplicityofwellness.com. I I whenever I'm on a podcast, my thing that I always want to offer your listeners is a free consult. I call it a free consult conversation because I don't want them to think, oh, she's going to come on and try to sell me a program.
Yeah,
What I like to do is have a conversation. I love to find out where you are, where you want to be, where you're stuck, and just kind of really sort of talk about where you could make some adjustments. So a win for me is anybody who leaves that call understand or have with more clarity and an understanding about what they can do right now. Like what would their next step be and be that on their own. They know I'm going to the grocery store, I get this, I totally know what to do and I'm doing it. Or be that, oh, I would love more guidance and help. So how can I work with you? That's always an option, but that's not the goal of the call. The goal of the call is for the person to feel or for your listener to feel heard and have a lot more clarity about what's going on and how they can kind of unravel it and fix it and get to that place where they feel their best.
very cool, very cool. Well, we had Amy White today, The Simplicity of Wellness. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us. Appreciate the conversation, getting me back into podcasting after the year off. It's been awesome. And for all of you listening, the simplicityofwellness.com. Check that out. Amy, thank you for offering that conversation to all the listeners. Appreciate that so much.
It
And
was,
thank you again.
yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.